revenge. We just don't know what's what. We are going to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Appreciate you for tuning in today. We're running a little late, but we're still good. So, two quarterbacks last night got the signature win, which we're going to talk about in their young careers. Michael Penix, Caleb Williams. Congrats to them. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this weekend is there's really no elite team in the NFL. There's elite units. The Detroit Lions offense is an elite unit. The Denver Broncos defense is an elite unit. But you look at those teams and you see the Lions struggle on defense. You see the Broncos struggle on offense. The Chiefs, you see Chiefs fans are going to try to tell you, we're going to talk specifically about one Chiefs fan later in the show who will try to tell you, oh, the Chiefs are clearly an elite team or the best team. No, they're not, because we've seen the Chiefs struggle. We've seen the Chiefs there's a reason why they're 3-3. If the playoffs started today, the Chiefs would not be in it. So to all the Chiefs fans that are saying we're back, we're elite, if the playoffs started today, the Kansas City Chiefs would not be in the playoffs. There's elite quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Mahomes. We see Lamar. Lamar might be, you guys know how I feel about Lamar Jackson. Lamar might be even better than we all think, because the Ravens average 30 plus points a game with him. They could barely get a touchdown a game without him. So we have elite quarterbacks. Josh Allen's clearly an elite quarterback, the reigning MVP of the league. Loses a game last night that you feel he should have won. And really, Buffalo at no point feels like they were in control of that game outside of the first drive. So there's all these different teams, whether you want to say it's the best roster, Philadelphia. Well, that's not playing up to par. They're having players only meetings. Darius Smith, who's been one of their best pass rushers, he retires yesterday. Like, there's a talented rosters, there's talented quarterbacks, there's talented defenses, there's talented offenses. And yet, maybe for one of the few times in my life, there is truly no elite team in the NFL. There is no team you're going to look at and go, oh, yeah, clearly that's the best one. And gambling messes this all up, because you see point spreads and you're like, oh, this team's favored by 10. This team's favored by 13. This team's favored by over a touchdown. The reality is, most games, especially during this stretch where coaches who are trying not to get fired, Mike McDaniel, Brian Callahan was trying not to get fired. He did obviously get fired yesterday. They're going to be in some of these games against the Dolphins and Chargers. No one is going to confuse and say they're in the same tier where they're as good as each other. But that game is close because the Chargers aren't elite. And if you want to say that's due to injuries, fine. But the Chargers, as we stand today, are not an elite team. Playing the Miami Dolphins, who are obviously not a very good team, but are going to give you a much better effort because their head coach doesn't want to be fired. Understandably so. So you're going to get a lot more of these games that are closer than we're used to, because there is no 2024 Philadelphia Eagles or 2022 Kansas City Chiefs, or take your dominant team 2021 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where you see the offense, the defense, the quarterback, everything's clicking, everything's working. Those teams just don't exist in this version, this year's NFL. Everybody is way closer. Team, the Saints, who we think are truly terrible, were in that game with New England. They've been in games where there's like the gap between 1 and 32 is maybe the smallest we've ever had it, which allows for true parity in the NFL, which is something you just don't have a ton of. The NFL is full of dynasties. Yes, there's one-off champions, but the NFL is full of dynasties. Go to 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the Patriots in the 2000s, and even the teams that weren't dynasties. We knew the Peyton Manning Colts year after year after year winning 12, 13 games. We knew the Aaron Rodgers Packers are a threat to get to a title. We knew again this Chiefs dynasty, the Bills. We've known who the great teams are, the Ravens. That just is not the case this year. So if you want to say we're going to do power rankings to start the second hour, if you want to say the Bills are the best team in the NFL, okay, they have an argument. If you want to say the Lions are the best team in the NFL, okay, they got an argument. If you want to say the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL, they got an argument. But the reality is, if you want to say there's an elite team, like they're just clearly the best team, I don't think you have an argument. There is no true outright best team in the NFL, clearly above everybody else. And that shows in a night like last night and really throughout this whole weekend and this entire NFL season. Now let's move on to, and I want to be very clear here. I think Kansas City wins the game anyway. Let me put that out there. I think Kansas City beats the Lions anyway, despite what I'm about to say. But I've brought this up a couple times, and we're going to talk about this later in the show for why would he say that. Fans just want it. We want to know what we're watching. We do. One of the most frustrating times in NFL history in terms of officiating and how the product looked is when we didn't know what a catch was. Remember the Calvin Johnson catch in the playoffs? Well, it wasn't a catch. Dez Bryant, was it a catch? Was it not a catch? And there was this true 3 to 5 year window of every single replay, every single review, every single in time. People were watching these games and watching these catches go on replay and get looked at and officiated and going, well, I think it's a catch, but I don't know. Because we just didn't know what a catch was for about 3 to 5 years. And we have slowly started to get some clarity on it. And now a catch looks like a catch, and it is called so. The reason why people get so frustrated with the Kansas City Chiefs with their lack of penalties or oddly timed penalties, some of it, yes, is there is absolutely some jealousy because they've been the team that's won the most. There is some, we see all of it because they have had the most primetime games in the NFL. And some of it is just because we're not dumb and we're not blind. And we just want to know what we're looking at. The Bills game last night, there's a catch that looked almost identical to Travis Kelce's. It was the guy catches the ball, but the ball, as he catches it, clearly hits the ground as he's trying to catch it. And they're like, hey, no catch. But Travis Kelce's, while interestingly enough, there is a instant replay review that they're allowed to use to change the play immediately. They don't have to call a challenge. They don't have to stop the game. They just have replay assist. Weirdly enough, doesn't get used on the Chiefs. And when it's not used, they get to hurry up, which is an old school thing. They've done that in football forever, but they're no longer supposed to be able to do that theoretically. And then the replay guy and then the NFL, the ref that they bring onto the broadcast goes, well, I think it would have been a catch anyway, even though you clearly see Travis Kelce grab the ball with one hand as he's trying to get a hold of it. It hits the ground, and they're just like, yeah, that's a catch. Really? When you see, and there's holding in every single game, but when you see on almost every single Mahomes highlight, not every single one, that sounds like I'm hating. When you see on a good amount of highlights, the left tackle, the right tackle hold, like Aiden Hutchinson being grabbed and literally underneath his shoulder pads where you can visibly see it. Throughout the history of watching football, fans can go, oh, I see holding. Oh, that's holding. We recognize holding. We recognize offsides. We recognize blatant pass interference. Like, we're able to see these things. And yet, for some reason, they're just oddly not called. Travis Kelce, the catch on the sideline again, where he is just holding the guy in place. Again, you can see shoulder pads, you can see the equipment coming out. That is normally it's historically always been a sign of, hey, he's holding. I'll give you, sometimes we don't quite understand hand fighting / pass interference, and sometimes that one gets tricky. But like when you see Travis Kelce go, hey, I need a flag, because you see some contact, you're like, okay, I see some contact, and they throw that flag, but then the same thing's not done. And Brian Branch, I'm not excusing him for what he did, but you see a block in the back, and it's, oh, look, not called. I understand Brian Branch being frustrated. And part of the reason he reacted, I'm not defending it. The NFL suspended him, which is the right decision. But if you're not going to, as a ref, police the game, quote unquote, fairly / correctly, some guy's just going to take that into their own hands. And that's what he did. Again, not defending what he did. I'm just saying that's just the reality of having grown men playing a very violent and physical sport. And then lastly, like we did not know what a catch was, and it was a frustrating experience for the players and the fans because we can see it. We do not know when the Kansas City Chiefs play what is a penalty. We just don't. And Andy Reid is the best head coach in football. That's 1,000% correct. And like I said, they win this game probably regardless. I think they're the better team than the Lions. 0 penalties in an NFL game is tough, especially when you're coming off a game with 13 penalties. Not saying that you can't clean it up, or not saying that, Andy Reid doesn't coach his guys up really well and they can't be disciplined. But 13-0 feels a little drastic, especially when you've got a backup left tackle playing on Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best pass rushers in football. A holding just kind of feels like it's going to happen. Just one. And again, we see the replays, we see the holding, but they're not calling it. So again, the frustration is not, oh, the Chiefs get away with everything. It's like, we just want to know what it looks like. We didn't know what a catch was. That was frustrating. And when the Chiefs play, we don't know what a penalty's like. And we're going to discuss a certain Chiefs fan who likes to play around with penalties. This is HardFoul Radio. Got a lot to talk about today. Appreciate you guys as always. We got power rankings at the top of the hours. Get good, get out, get great. We got a wonderful edition of Why Would He Say That, plus many more. Don't forget, this is HardFoul Radio, sponsored by W. Use HardFoul 10 at checkout if you want to get a drink that is not going to give you the crash out, but is going to give you the energy. W is the best way to go. I use it every single day. Get your shaker, get you a bucket or a tub, I apologize, at checkout. HardFoul 10 for 10% off. Supports the channel, supports the show. Again, HardFoul Radio, a lot to talk about. We'll be back momentarily.